Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome out to this amazing ODivaZ Women's race. You have been here many times before, and we are really excited to bring it to you. I am joined by my guy, Jason Flores. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Chris. It's good to have you back on the broadcast today. How you been?
You know what? I've been busy. I've been good. I've been traveling a bunch, but they don't care about me. They care about these women, and we're going to talk about them today. We want you to respond on social media if you're watching on Twitch or on Facebook or on any of the places that you're watching this. We want to know what you think. Prognosticate. Throw your ideas out there. We will undoubtedly read them on the air. We are very interested in the conversation we're going to have with you today. Now, as we get ready to go here, we see on the front Night Train as our commissar today wearing the beacon, and she, in this case, wearing the women's avatar, which is, interestingly fitting for our guy, that he is going to be the one who starts this. Everyone in the group is doing a really nice job of staying. Now, Jason, explain to us a little bit about this course that we're going to go on today. I think it's something that everybody who's watching is probably really familiar with.
Absolutely, Chris. This is a classic course that we're going to be doing today. We are going to be doing Watopia Hills. This is the bread and butter of the racing that has been done. The majority of the racing of the Zwift riders that have come on in the last year, this is where we started. This is what we've done. This is what we know. Punchy climbs, fast downhills, and S's on the backside going to the finish. We're going to get 3 laps of this today, Chris.
That's awesome. Now, as we look in this group, I think we've got some names that people definitely recognize. Taya Freestead, one of those great riders who I think has the opportunity to be really successful today. She's strong, especially in these burst intervals, and she's going to have a couple of those, of course. The traditional hill, just about 3 minutes or less of just pain. Taya can put that out. Then we've got the kicker hill, as it's often described, or the puncher hill, which comes right after Sprint Town. Another 60-second just power fest. That's her kind of territory, and I would expect her to do really well in that space. But who else? Who else is with us in this group? I see Stephanie Wagner, but who can we expect to see have success today?
We've got some new names, and we've got some names that have been here week after week. There's some of the new names that I saw and that are memorable, or at least calling out, is Team Moose, and she is a B rider that has done some really great things in the B. She has actually placed in the top 3 in the last 3 ladies races, Chris. So that is someone that's going to be someone to watch in the B riders category. But there are some new names, and I'm really happy to see the riders of C. Scott, Zanel, and we're going to be trying to pull up this on live to get some first names for all those riders. But we've got a lot of new names today, and that's great.
That is really cool. Now, as we're over the shoulder of the commissar, we are starting this race today at Hanks for the old-timers. See, for the old-timers, they know this course really well because back in the day, this was the course, right? This is what we did. We showed up and we did exactly this course. There was no Ocean Avenue. There was no epic KOM. This was in the early days when there was Watopia and Watopia only. So you're like, what are we going to do today? Well, it's Monday. I think that means that we're on Watopia. And you could either do this route forward or backward. And this was the one that we did. Exactly. Yep, and so it's funny because a lot of people who are now new to the world, new to the game, don't recognize this as like the main course. They stumble upon it and say, "Oh, that'd be interesting. Maybe I'll try that one. That would be fun." And not knowing that this was all people did for years and years, but this is still a classic course. Now, if you're not familiar with it, what we're going to see is we're going to come up and over this hill right here. We see the volcano in the distance, which never used to be part of the skyline. And boy, I sound like an old man right now. I apologize. Back in my day, Jason, it's all we had. We had one straight road. We rode all the way out to the end. We turned around. We came back. But no, that was called Richmond. Anyway, but the idea here is that we're going to come down this hill. They're going to want to get in position, not overtake the leader here, which is difficult on a downhill once you get rolling. And when they come by Hanks, it's going to be on, and we will hear the voice in this channel of our commissar opening that up. We'll make sure that he has the space to do that. But these riders are starting to queue up behind him. And there is a decent-sized group here this morning. It is not the largest group we've ever seen, but it is definitely a competitive group, and we're happy to bring them to you. They're organized here tightly around. We have Bedelia, we have Dino, Zanel, Hoffman, a lot of these names that you know really well. Now, we're going to be following their details on Zwift Live, which is or Zwift Power, rather, which is a wonderful tool you're watching on Zwift Live or some variant thereof of this women's race, where we can pull their numbers as the race progresses. It's early, so the numbers will be a little bit skewed, but as these riders separate and break out, we're going to see those numbers nicely in that Zwift Power tool. So, Jason, as we come down to the beginning of this, and you are coaching these riders, who is really the excuse me, not who, but what are you coaching your racers to do at this early stage of the race?
All right, step one, of course, you want to make sure you're staying behind the beacon. You've got these riders, you see how they're tightly packed. You want to make sure you're not doing any effort as you're coming down. Typically, it's a flat or a slight rise to our neutral, but today it's downhill, so not as bad and not as hard, and everyone's staying really well behind our leader. They're tucking in, they're getting into super tuck. But right when this opens, you're going to want to watch those wheels. A lot of times there's going to be some huge burst, and what you're going to want to do is hold that wheel. Really not put a lot of effort. You're going to see some brakes go, but don't let anything go further than about 3 to 5 seconds, especially right when we go. And we're coming up on Hanks right now.
Coming up on Hanks right now, and we'll hear the commissar.
Go, 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 ladies. Go, go, go.
Nice. Thank you, Commissar. And they are open, and we are seeing this happen right now here at the very beginning. Big dig of power by Taya Freestead coming out of her saddle, trying to get a little bit of a gap off the front
there.
Go,
ladies.
You see her in the ODivaZ jersey, and she is pushing. Scott on her wheel, Herzog not far after. We're leaving the Commissar behind now with our cameras, and we are jumping on board this trio of women. As we look over the shoulder, we have the ability, of course, to choose any camera we like, and we are seeing these riders push off the front. Herzog in that second wheel, Taya Freestead sitting on the front here. We are getting a selection here, 5.0 watts per kilo on the front. Jason, what does that mean?
That means that the pace is going to be leg breaking. We've got 3 riders that have known to be this ability to break away. Megan Herzog, Taya Freestead definitely have the legs to make this gap. And the gap is around 2 seconds, but we've got a little bit of an incline. If they can get over this without the group, they may be able to get it. But there is a punch here to get down to Sprint Village, so we'll see how it kind of lays out.
Boy, and I'll tell you, when I race, I have done this so many times in the past where I've come up with a group, I've survived, I've managed to pull myself back to a group, but I come up to this area. We see Amelia Bedelia right there on the front. She has moved past a little bit of a gap in meters, not seconds here, and she is putting the pace at the front. Kala right behind her, Freestead saying, bridge that up, sister, I don't want to do it all day, and it's good that she doesn't. She's going to have to do that, it looks like, herself right now, and pull back that wheel, maybe 5 meters at this point, but not much more. But I've been dropped on that hill before where it looks like you're about to get off the front and or about to stay with that group, and someone will put in just a little bit of dig. Again, you work those watts against those kilos, and that sometimes makes the difference of speed and overall power. As we come down through Sprint Village here, we're starting to see this line out. We'll give you a recap, but it really looks like 5 riders at the front here. Herzog is a second back of our 2 leaders here, Freestead and Bedelia. We don't know a lot about about Amelia, who's sitting in that second wheel right now. Not as much about Kala, but we'll talk about them here briefly. But can you help us understand a little bit, as these 5 riders come together, what it is when we talk about watts per kilo? For the new person watching, for the non-power nerd, what is watts per kilo?
So looking at watts per kilogram, it's really broken down to 2 parts in the letters here. The watts, that's the power that the rider is pushing out. Pushing down on each pedal creates a force, and that is the watts that are created, the energy that's created. We divide that by their weight in kilograms, and that gives us this number that we're seeing here, Chris, the watts per kilogram. And that's the number that tells us how fast or how hard on an equal plane that these riders are pushing against each other during the race here.
So watts divided by their kilograms gives them the ability, it creates that even plane, because if I can put out 1,000 watts and you can put out 500 watts, but I I weigh twice what you are. Isn't roughly, the mathematicians in the audience are saying, well, that's not quite like that. But basically, we would be equal. Fair enough?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good way to understand it.
Okay, so as we look at these riders, their weight doesn't matter, their power doesn't matter, but you take those two together and we can compare these riders. So when Amelia is doing 3.5 watts per kilo and so is Taya, we can expect that to equal roughly the same thing as far as overall output on say, a hill or a course.
Exactly. That's what we're looking at there.
Okay, so we've got Kala on the front here, and she's made just a little bit of a separation here. Now it's early. Taya is not allowing her to go. Our lead riders are stringing out here. We're going to give you a rundown here momentarily of where everybody is, but it doesn't look like Taya is going to let her get away today. Now she's running the E in her name, which is interesting. We don't see that very often. She's running that E ticket, not to be confused with the Disney E ticket, but maybe so. Maybe she is a top attraction here, and that could be possible. But Jason, that E symbol is not something we see a lot anymore, but it was a big push, a little more than a year ago. Oh, big dig by Kala right there. Comes up and over. She is in this area we call the S's, and she is trying to get a little bit of a separation with this up, down, up, down. And it looks like, that's Amelia who's doing that right now. Bedelia. She got that little bit of a push. Kala chasing. Freestead now answering that response. Gosh, it seems early to try to get this full separation, but these ladies are very interested in giving us a show today, and we thank you. We would love to have a nice show today on the course. But back to that question that I was about to ask you, as we try to understand some of these racers and who they are, what they do. Give us a little bit of context, a little history in the trio that we see off the front here of Taya, Kala, and Amelia Bedelia.
So just pulling up everybody's Zwift Power accounts, which is a great place to go to see what their racing history are. Amelia Bedelia, actually from Germany here, it looks like she's a very new racer in the last 1 or 2 months. But there is a lot of history between Taya and Kala here. Kala is actually riding here from China, and she's actually done the Zwift Academy workouts. If you haven't heard of those, if you're a ladies rider, there's a whole women's series to take a look at, and she's done all that. So all the way through past the beginning of this year. So she's got 6 or 7 months under her belt racing and riding with the Zwift Academy. So you know that she's strong and that she's got her legs. Taya, our usual ride leader from Team ODivaZ, very, very strong, well versed in racing here on scene, and you can catch her, speaking about race tactics and that so forth on the rides that she leads every week.
That is awesome. We're going to give you a little bit of a rundown here. And as we do so, we're going to do this in the flatter section here, even though Amelia is getting away a little bit, and I'm going to listen to our folks there. I tend to get a little bit confused between the German and the Belgian flag. And I know that she flies that flag for one of those countries, but I am going to... I'm going to have to go into my Zwift Power to verify that. It says Germany there. So I don't want any of you saying, oh, Haskell, how do you not know the difference between Germany and Belgium? And I know that I should be able to spot those flags in an instant, but sometimes I struggle. But we're going to give you a rundown right here. And then I'm going to have my guy Jason just tell us a little bit more about this E that she's wearing on her name, the Zwift Academy rider, Kala. But right now, in the front, we've got this group of Amelia Bedelia, the German rider, Taya Freestead from the U.S., and Kala from China. Now, chasing back a few more seconds, 16 by our mark, we have Herzog and Oyat. We also have Scott, the KG B rider from ODivaZ. Sai, we have Team Moose, who's still hanging on about 6 seconds back, Stephanie Wagner and Benon. Another ODivaZ rider as well. Then we have a little bit more of a gap, 7 more seconds back. Dino, Zanel, KJ, Hoffman are rounding out our relatively small but incredibly competitive women's group today. We'll try to give you that rundown a number of times during the broadcast. So we'll throw it back to our guy Jason, the expert here, and ask him that most important question. What does that E signify in her name?
So you were speaking to a little bit of the history of the letter E, and a lot of times it has come for the elite group. But I think in this case, looking at the history and kind of how the categories have gone in the event module, I think it's category E for everyone in this situation. Just because the history looks like she's raced under the C or the B category previously, so I believe it is a letter E for everyone, Chris.
Excellent. Now, there was a movement about a year ago to try to reclassify the way we were classifying writers. And so E for everyone, she is rated E for everyone. Taya Freestead, let's be honest, is rated T for teen. There is some animated violence in her races from time to time. She is definitely one to put on an attack. So as we start to move up this hill, Kala makes a big move, the Chinese rider, and she is trying to get a little bit of a gap, and she does against Amelia Bedelia and her competitors here. Taya still back there holding about 5 watts per kilo, making sure that she sees them. She's got this gap here, but this is a hard place to try to pull back lots of watts. You want to try to match at least what the people in front of you are doing so that those gaps don't grow any bigger. And I mean match that in watts per kilo. As we look over Taya's shoulder here, she's not going to blow herself up here right now. We may be seeing cracks in the armor here just a little bit for Taya, but her race is not over. This is still the second lap, the second time up this climb. The first time up with malice, as it were. Kala getting away up the hill just a little bit here, but it is still really early. But we talk about that E and where it existed previously. And there was a movement, maybe you can even speak to this a little bit more, about reclassifying riders. And there were A riders, which were seen as riders who consistently performed 20-minute average at 4.0 watts per kilo or higher, right? So people who had great watts and low kilos or just super great watts, right? People who could really put out power, keeping those as A riders. But there was another idea of classifying those beyond A riders, and A plus or A plus plus was thrown out there. I don't know that ever stuck, but E being one of those as well. Can you speak a little bit to the different ways that we have talked about and actually classified riders in this game to keep them competitive?
Yeah, so what the situation was that there was a crop of riders that actually arose that were this essentially elite level or 5.0 plus riders, essentially riders that were maybe ex-pro or pro amateur level or semi-pro, and they were racing in the highest categories in their road races and their criteriums in the local area, but were coming on and able to be verified at this 5.0 plus level, which essentially was this huge gap between the lowest A rider at 4.0 and a 5.0 plus rider in the elite level. So the movement was actually to divide the A category from 4.0 to 5, and then allowing the elite level to be 5.0 above that to, I guess, to the sky's the limit, to domestic pro item or world tour pro at that moment for those guys that get on.
Oh, no kidding. And we definitely see some riders that put out that kind of power and do those kind of things, which is really amazing. We're going to give you another rundown as we come up the hill here, waiting on some new details. And they just populate for me. Thank you. It's as if Swift Power knew that I needed another update. So we've got Kala on the front, the Chinese rider. We've got Amelia Bedelia on the front. Not far after her, 2 seconds. It looks like she might be about to pull that back. Taya Freestead has been trimmed from the main group here, another 27 seconds back. That hill can take a toll unless you can hold it over 6 for a couple of minutes. And it looks like she had burned a match or two coming through the S's, trying to pull that back after the puncher hill, just following Sprint Town. And is now in no man's land, in this case in no woman's land, in between the two leaders and the chase group, which contains Herzog and Oyat, or Oyat, excuse me. I will give you at least 3 or 4 more pronunciations of that name, and maybe one will stick and be correct. Ayot, there we go. The American rider. If anybody wants to help me out on social media and help your guy pronounce that correctly, I would take it. And Herzog not far behind. KJ, Team Moose, all within striking distance of one another. Natalie Zanel also in that group. Sai, the Taiwanese writer, and Stephanie Wagner, all in a collection here. And we are going to follow that collection because this course allows us to do this. Some of the other courses and watchers that exist on course don't allow you to easily jump around. You can get lost. You can get separated from members of that group from time to time. But not here. Typically, we can jump from the first rider to the last rider in this group, and it will populate comfortably. We don't tend to lose them on this short lap here. It's the traditional one, which is nice. It's great for commentators. That's really, really good. But I think this is an interesting group that is shaping up here, and I'd like to know what my guy Jason thinks. And I'm speaking specifically of this chase group of bees. We've got Nicole Zanel in this group. We also have Stephanie Wagner and Team Moose, who we will make up a name for unless she eventually tells us what we're supposed to call her. And it might not be a good name. It might be like a pioneer name. You know, we'll come up with something. Something just that is not as pleasant. So as you look at this group here, they're still doing a big turn of power here. Not uncommon for them to dip over into the 4.0 watts per kilo as they're trying to stay on one another's wheels. But what do you think about this group as I speak? Moose, Wags, and Zanel. Are they going to be able to pull back the 7 seconds to Sai?
It is a pretty big task here. They are on the downhill, but the place to get it, if they're going to get it, is going to be through the S's. As you know as well as I do, the S's are places where people can get lost. So what you want to do is get punchy on the uphill so that you can get that gap back, and they could easily close this 8 to 7 set gap on the rider ahead of them.
Yeah, and you know what? Not very far ahead of them is KJ. Not with anybody. Boy, they could really work some magic here. And you know what? And that's what happens in a race like this. And many of us have been in races. It is uncommon for you to go out and win every race, but it is far more common for you to find yourself in a small group off the back of individual riders or a main group. Boy, I did a lot of collegiate racing back in the day, and these were common occurrences. Small gruppetto or autobus, the very last group. That is just trying to get across the line in the time gap, that they work together. And if they do work together, they can say, look, let's catch that next person. Let's all do a little bit of a dig. Let's all put a turn, and let's go catch that next person. And then you build that group. You build them up higher.
Absolutely. Chris, I've got some great news for you. So I've got the name for number 1, Team Moose. Her name is Connie Swinson.
Connie Swinson. I love it. Thank you, social media. So as you're checking in and seeing those things popping around on the different spaces, what information are you getting about and commentary are you getting from our folks out there?
Well, I know she had reached out a little bit ago. She has her husband, whose name is Hardy, who rides as number 2 Team Moose, and they share that station there. And from what I understand, she is a nurse. I'm trying to find out exactly where she is, but I did have some light conversation with her about her story, and I will start to dig that up as we move along here.
I love that you're getting messages from the rider as she's putting down this power. That is dangerous for those who are around her. I think that's pretty funny as well. Oh my goodness. Okay, so as we're getting into this race, I probably ought to make the announcement. Some who are watching already know I have my bags packed downstairs. This is an 11th hour broadcast that's happening here, and we're getting ready to hit the road. And we, meaning I'm hopping a plane today to California. Where I'm going to spend 8 hours or so with some folks at Blizzard. Blizzard being the game giant. Been working with them related to collegiate esports and esports in general over the last little bit. A couple of little side projects and interesting things happening there. So that will be cool. I'm going to go visit the UCI, that'd be University of California, Irvine esports arena today. That's going to be a lot of fun. But then I'm getting on a plane to fly to London. That is right. I'm going to London to be able to participate in the call of the CVR World Cup race that's happening there. I'm going to broadcast alongside Nathan Guerra, something he and I have never done before. You should tune in just for that, to see how that's going to go. And you're like, whoa, you guys broadcasting? I like Nathan. I really like Nathan. But we've never broadcast together. It could be a hot mess. It could be the most exciting thing ever. We could have so much trouble broadcasting together that a fist fight could break out. Well, probably not, because both of us like each other. So, but hey, you never know. That's why you should watch. And people on social media are like, yeah, throw punches. No, well, maybe. All right, let's do it. We'll do that in between the women's race and the men's race. So if you tune in late, you'll see bloodied and battered Guerra and Haskell trying to call then the men's race. No, it's going to be a lot of fun. But let's jump back to the front here. We have Amelia Vidalia sitting on the front of this group. She is powering through the S's, pushing really, really hard. And Kala has been dropped, 27 seconds behind here in the S's. I think it's possible that Taya could catch her. Kala is backed off. Ooh, here's her name just a little bit there. Puts in just a little bit of a dig. Looks like she's playing the roller. She's doing the roller coaster game right here, where you power up and over the up, and then you spin softly on the down, which is a strategy that I really like in this section. Kala is in a group here where she is surrounded by some other riders, so she can catch a wheel. And Taya now firmly in the S's here, doing, I see on average more of a turn here. The difference is she doesn't have many other riders to act as her muse. She can't catch a wheel and let herself get pulled along, and she is not doing the same punch retreat approach that Kala is in front. And that gap, which is only 24 seconds right now, is not falling fast enough, I don't think, for her to be able to catch her before the hill. But on the hill, entirely possible. It's the last time up the big hill. We'll see what they have. Now, Amelia heading down toward the start finish. She's all alone here. And it looks like with 36 seconds, she's going to be able to hold on. Now, if she's your rider, if she's the one receiving coaching from the great Jay Flo, what is she hearing in her ear? What are the whispers from the team car about what she's got to be able to do?
So what we're looking at is if we were getting time gaps, and obviously we're looking at about a 1 minute gap or at least a 45-second gap to the rider behind her. What I'm thinking is nice and steady pace, right at that threshold to make sure that that gap doesn't close. If it closes any more than 15 seconds from where she's at to get close to 30 seconds, she needs to up it. But at this point, she's got threshold all the way to the end of the line, is what I'm telling her in her ear if I were there.
Wow, that is impressive. Now on my leaderboard here, I show that Kala has the KOM jersey. Now she attacked big on that big finish, and on the big climb a little bit ago, and it does not surprise me that she grabbed the women's KOM jersey. We'll take a look at that time as we come back around. There is a possibility that Hoffman, the South African rider, could get caught here in the lap. Now, Hoffman, if you can hear us, now is the time to dig. Your race has become something different. It has been the don't get lapped. Getting lapped is not very common in the women's race because the courses are typically longer. However, this is a very short course. How many miles is the full lap, Jason? I put you on the spot there. The full traditional lap here. I'm trying to remember myself. It's been, I could have told you down to the meter a couple of years ago when it was pretty much all that we did, but I can't remember right now what that is. And he's looking it up. I can hear the ticking in the background. It's checking out the internet, which is completely okay.
All right, hold on. I've got that. I've got that coming up to us right now, Chris. That information. But I did have a note. They actually are holding the sprint and the KOM jersey here. Our two ride leaders. So you know that efforts are huge at this point in the race, and the watts per kilogram are way up above 3.5, very close to 4.0. So this is a very, very, very fast race. Mm-hmm. And now the data is coming through. It's looking at 5.7 miles or 9.1 kilograms per lap. So we are in our third lap here, third time going up the KOM on the hilly side. You're looking at 5.7 miles left to go in this front group.
This is our last lap. 1 to go, 1 to go, 1 to go. And you are right. I had to actually move off of the following Amelia to be able to see that green jersey. It was covered by the thumbs up, which she'll get here very shortly. Taya in the gap here. We're trying to call the exciting parts of these races. Now we don't want to step away from Amelia and let her let her fall away as far as our attention here. But as we jump on Kala, we notice that Kala, who is the KOM jersey here, she can put in more power than anybody else here, it's possible that she could pull back some time on Amelia right here, and I think that she's going to try to do it. The Chinese rider trying to catch the German rider. Amelia Bedelia up there at the front, 21 seconds ahead of Kala, but Kala is putting in a bigger dig. Amelia doing a little bit less. Our women's KOM jersey could very well catch her on this hill, and that's one of the really exciting pieces. This could come down to something really, really cool. Scott has been caught here because she is on the side of the road doing 0.0 watts per kilo. That is that's where my FTP is for those at home. My FTP is 0.0 watts per kilo. I can hold that for 20 minutes or more, up to 25 at sometimes, depending on the conditions. But Kala here is still trying to chase here, and the gap is 26 seconds. Amelia says, I don't want you to catch me, sister. I'm going to put in a little bit more. And she is putting out that power. So Amelia holding some heavier watts here with 190 BPM on the heart rate. That is significant workload on any heart. I don't care how young you are or how fit you are. And Amelia's coming up and over the climb here. We're going to be able to see that she did the climb in 2:09 last time, Kala in 2:06. We see those numbers coming in. Thank you, Zwift KOM banner, and for giving us those details. And Taya at 33. Now, those numbers are significant because if history tells us anything, Kala is only going to be able to make up about 3 seconds. Now, we see the big gap happening here. See, as Amelia comes over the top and she can get her speed up, Kala is unable to do it. And you know what? Backs way off and says, I can't keep with you, sister. The trick to go there, for those who are looking for a little bit of a strategy here, is that you want to be able to turn your power up and over into speed. The most important thing you can do is you can average higher speed, and you do that in incremental gains, don't you, Jason? You pull as many miles per hour or kilos per hour or kilos per centaur if we're using Battlestar Galactica time measurements, which we sometimes do. We want to make sure that everyone is represented here. Americans, Europeans, well, technically the world uses the metric system, and Cylons, who use the Battlestar Galactica time measurement system in centaurs. And people are like, what are you talking about? Except for those 3 nerds who know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I raise my hand in the air to miss a high five with you. That's right, we high-fived, or we tried and we missed. Now, back to the race at hand. That as you come up and over, Jason, you want to try to get as high a speed as you can. Your watts per kilo don't matter nearly as much as your overall speed, because it is speed that will close gaps, isn't it?
That is correct. And rolling over is the key, Chris. A lot of times a rider will get to the top of a crest and they will actually let off the pedal, when in fact I drill it into all of my athletes. Roll over the top, keep on top of the pedal until you are going down on the other side, and that's what's going to get you that miles per hour or that kilometers per hour that's going to keep you closing gaps every single time you go downhill.
And if we're talking strategy here, and we are, because that's what we do. We talk strategy, we talk love advice, we talk cooking, we talk Battlestar Galactica. But the reason that I bring that up is because it was a tip I picked up a number of years ago. We've all been in that group ride and have gotten separated from a group, and we feel like we're about to die, right? And we see that group up ahead, and it seems like they're gonna just pull away from us, and we're about to come up to a hill. One of the pieces of advice that I was given was, certainly on the flat, if you think you can reach them, then you put in all or nothing. A big group will have an aerodynamic advantage, but as you come up to a hill, there's a little trick that you can do, and it truly is a trick that will help you catch onto a wheel or a group and they may not expect it. It is a little trick of science that you can do, and it has to do with exactly what we've been talking about, rolling through. But the first third to first half of any hill is where the greatest speed differential occurs. Most riders will continue to ride at watts or perceived effort. And as you transition, there's a rolling curve. As you transition from a flat or even a downhill into an uphill, especially a prolonged uphill, there's a very specific bleed of speed that happens even if you're maintaining the same power. So what you can do is you, as a rider, can commit to putting in much more effort, not a dead sprint, but much more effort as you roll into a hill and to the first third of it, right? That you put in significantly more power at the front of the hill. Most people will try to maintain the wheel next to them, right? They're comfortable in a big group. And what happens is that curve dips exponentially. It really rolls off, and the speed falls from 18 to 21 down to about 12 to 15, right? But you, as a chasing rider who may be, say 10 to 15 seconds back or more, has the opportunity to maintain that 20 mile an hour. And consider this: flip the rate of, you basically double their rate of speed for X amount of feet, or a half a mile, or something to that effect. So you can double your speed versus their speed with only about a 20% gain in heart rate. So it's this mathematical trick. You're like, what are you talking about? Hey, I'm a doctor, and this is going to be on your test. That you can actually pull that gap back if you put in that dig on the hill. This is the place you come for this kind of super detailed stuff. Try it on your next group ride. Try it on your next club ride. Say, let's do this hill together. I'm going to fall back. You guys just do what you do. Fall back 10, 15 seconds and try it and see exactly what I mean. You can double their closing speed. Okay, so we're seeing a little bit of a shakeup here in the group, Jason. We have Bedelia, who's now 1 minute and 40 in front of Kala. We have Freestead, who is now 49 seconds behind Kala, and then we have our chase group. We noticed that Bedelia has taken on a new jersey, not showing here presently, but that new jersey is the lap jersey as well. She is our top lap, and I'm frankly not surprised to see it. We would expect to see it on something like this with these fast women. Are you surprised by the outcome, and if so, what are your thoughts?
Well, you know what? We have seen breakout performances by these two riders in front. They are both new riders to the series and new riders to us as far as names. They do have some history on Zwift Power. Obviously, you've always have to have some suspect in your mind if there's not as much history as some of the other riders that are here that we normally see on the front of this peloton. But definitely, it's something that we need to look into. But you know what? The wattages are there, and it's matching the heart rate. So really, at this point, there's nothing we can say.
Nothing we can say, indeed. Well, we're going to reach out to you. I think that we've all been in these races before where interesting things like this have happened. I don't believe that we're going to have a shakeup in the final, so as soon as we have visibility on the rest of our group, we will give you those details. But let me give you a rundown right now. That rundown is critically important. You're like, where is my Stephanie Wagner? Well, Stephanie Wagner sitting in 10th place right now, doing pretty well. In fact, she is chasing a teammate here. So let me give you that rundown here as we jump back into the group. Right now, in this fourth position, we have KJ, the B rider. It looks like KJ is going to win this B group, unless Ayat has something to say about that. If you're keeping track at home with your pronunciation bingo, that is G4. Ayot is G4. Thank you. We'll call another version of that name in a moment, and I believe that we're going to have a winner in pronunciation bingo today. So Herzog is another one of these riders, just 17 seconds behind. We have this really interesting pairing here. Herzog and Ayot. I believe that would be the 9th pronunciation of Ayot. And she is doing a really nice job. Somebody give me a phonetic. Come on, help your guy out here. They are definitely battling back and forth. So as we do the rundown here, we have Bedelia, Kala, Freestead, KJ as 1, 2, 3, 4. Ayot, which I'm just trying to pronounce it again for this one more time, and Herzog at 5 and 6. We have Nicole Zanel, a B rider in that 7th position. She is looking for a podium spot at this point, and it looks like she may have it. She may be in that 3rd B podium spot. Tsai, the Taiwanese rider, sitting in 8th position. Team Moose, and I want you to say her name again because you had a brilliant pronunciation of it.
Yeah, it was Connie Swinson, and it's actually Nico Sai who's right there. So it's Stephanie Wagner, Nico Sai, Nicole Zanel, and Connie Swinson that's in that group that's kind of mixing it up. Oh, they've all come up here now that we're at Sprint Village.
Yes, and we're looking at them right now, and there is some guy hanging on with them. I'm sorry, brother, but these women are too strong for you. They're going to drop you like a bad habit. No kidding. They're going to drop you like a leaky diaper. It's going to happen here in just a moment, and it looks like it already did. Oh, my goodness, that's hilarious. I feel bad for that guy. Well, maybe next time, buddy. Maybe next time. Okay, so, and then we have Stephanie Wagner firmly situated in 10th place. Top 10 finish overall for Stephanie. That shows the work that she has done in the past. Doing a great job. Her history in this race, she has a 12th place finish recently and a 9th place finish. She is a strong rider. Taya Freestead is on pace to get another bronze medal. And frankly, I'm excited to see her on the podium again. There were a number of races, week after week after week, where she found herself in that 4th spot or that 6th spot. New riders coming in and out, but she has always been a consistent superstar. She's our George Hincapie. She is our... you throw them in there. You name the name. Somebody, I'll come up with another name for you in a minute here. But our strong, consistent finisher, always capable of not just sticking with, but animating those groups. A top finisher throughout. Now, as we finish out the rest of our top 15, and that's as far as we'll go today, we have Beynon, Dino, Hoffman, and Scott there fighting to the finish. But as they come across this finish line, which is just about to happen here, we are really firmly rested on this group of Tsai, Nico Tsai, Nicole Zanel, Stephanie Wagner, that group. Really interested to see what happens when they come through sprint down here. Now, what do we have in the future here for this women's race? It doesn't happen every week, Jason, but when's the next one? And then I'll tell you, I'll give a little tease here to London. I have something I need to tell you about London that could change your world. That's clickbait. Okay.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So this ladies race of this episode on the U.S. Time zone is actually happening on the 1st and the 3rd Saturdays of the month. But in the works, we actually have a racing series that's starting down under in Australia that will also be a ladies only race, just like we have it here. It will end up being midday US, but in the prime time for the Australian riders. So look forward to that. There are more and more ladies races that are coming up. They are well supported. The logistics are behind it are just like ours here. And we are just growing this base of viewers as well as riders that are racing in this series, Chris. So now, tell us, what is your news?
So here's the deal. I'm really, really excited. We haven't worked out the details, but I'm going to get to hang out with Johnny Noblet. I'm going to get to meet him, and that is really cool because, as we've mentioned before, he is a guy that we hold in really high esteem. He is a strong broadcaster. I wish we got more Noblet broadcasting because I'm a huge fan. Hopefully, there's some things happening in the works that I do not want to tease too much, but hopefully in the lead up to London or during the London broadcast, we're going to be able to share some of those details. Details about our guy Johnny Noblet, details about our guy Nathan Guerra, and interesting, exciting things that are happening with Zwift and with broadcasting. I don't want to give away too much more, but I'm privy to some exciting things that are going to happen. So we're going to sit down with those boys and figure out what's going on. So Johnny, who I know is listening here, he is correcting my pronunciation and reminding me which flags are which. That we sure do appreciate you, Johnny Noblet. But I'm going to be in London. I'm leaving there, flying there all night tonight. Going to participate in the broadcast. I'm going to do a couple things in advance of the event with some weigh-ins. Stay tuned to Zwift Live. Stay tuned to Zwift Community Live, and to, of course, to Zwift Riders. If you're keyed into those spaces, we can definitely communicate some interesting things. This is the big, CVR race, the World Cup race that's going to bring together 16 of the strongest riders that virtual cycling has to offer, and some compelling storylines. And frankly, there are some riders who just don't love each other. They're very polite and cordial, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that stops. That the beefs come to the surface, and we have a vested interest in listening to what these folks have to say and watching them fight it out. Now, we are finishing this race right now, Jason, and I know that you're aware of now our top 3 finishers. Do you want to give us our big finish?
Yeah, I do have our lineup, or our finishing list here. I've got Amelia Bedelia in first place. I've got Z Kala after that with a bit of a gap. I've got Tia Friested, and then KJ coming in at 4th. Our Annette, Annette, Michelle, I believe, is 5th. And then we've got Herzog just coming through the line in 6th place. But I think the show is where you are at right now with Nico Sai and Nicole Zanel and Connie Swinson and Stephanie Wagner. And I'm hoping to see those Wagner legs to see if we can get a sprint out here.
Yeah, how about calling out a rider right there? Stephanie Wagner. We'd like to see if your family pedigree as a sprinter. She, of course, is the better half of our guy Jay Wags. Justin Wagner, well-known both Zwift and ODivaZ personality, strong dude. But as we're coming up to the big finish here, we're going to drop actually to our big closer. We're going to drop in this big finish, and it is happening right now. And it looks like Stephanie Wagner on the front here will give you a classic call. Nicole Zanel on her wheel. The power is starting to ramp up. We jump over the shoulder of our lead rider. Zanel wants to come around. Wagner is going to do everything in her power to catch onto that. She's putting in big watts, but it looks like she may be broken. Nicole off the front here, the B rider, doing her best to get on there, and it looks like she's going to come under that Wagner first. Tasai comes around. Nico Tasai passes Stephanie Wagner. Wagner's like, I'm giving it all she's got, but that's not going to happen today. She's going to get sucked into the wormhole like the Enterprise. There you go, your second science fiction reference of the day. We see the confetti. The women are done. And man, did they give us a nice show. Thank you so much, ladies, for this big finish. We want to thank all of those who participated in the different methods today, the different methods of communication. Our guy, Johnny Noblet, as always, doing such a great job. Who else do we need to thank? What other commentary do we need to acknowledge, Jason, as we close this broadcast?
I think a big hats off goes to everybody who works behind the scenes to make this broadcast happen, Chris. It's not just me, it's not just you, it's the whole Team ODivaZ and the Zwift Live crew that make this happen. If it wasn't for them sharing out social media, doing all those things, we wouldn't be where we're at. So we thank everyone watching, viewing. We held a great amount of viewers today, over 20 the whole way, and we thank everyone who watches us week in and week out here on Zwift Live.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. We just love the community. We love bringing you the stuff that you love, and we hope that this was entertaining. We want to thank you again for joining us. Stay tuned over the next couple days, and I will bring you some special stuff right here on Zwift Live about this event. We'll share it out. We'll do some live stream. We're gonna sit down. If you've got some questions that you need answered, I will carry those questions all the way to London in my bag, assuming that I can get them in a checked bag. If they are TSA approved, that would be handy. On the horizon, of course, we have many more things that you're going to want to tune into. Check out the schedule on Zwift Live. It's going to be updated very soon with some new exciting folks. I love my guy Jay Flo. I'm going to see you here shortly. I'll even be in California in a very short amount of time. I want to thank everybody for participating in this, and all of our partners everywhere. So for this crew here, for Jay Flo, we say thank you very much, and we will see you very soon.
Right on.
Good.
Thanks for